Hello everybody, welcome to Full Moon Church. We're just going to take a breath in to start, breathing in. And Full Moon Church is our chance to really connect in with our spiritual practice, with the magic of Avalon, of Aphrodite, with everything we stand for here at the Temple of Venus Morgana. So I'm going to invite us to come into presence because this full moon occurs at the autumn equinox, the one time of balance in the year, apart from the other time of balance in the year, where day and night are of equal lengths and we get to breathe into the stillness. So I invite you to take a breath with me. We're just going to listen. So what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes and bring ourselves into presence just by focusing our attention on our ears and everything we can hear. Expanding to receive and contain all the sounds and all the pauses between the sounds in your area. Bringing ourselves into presence. Allowing us to be here now. And we call in the magic of the full moon as she rides high in the sky. And we're just going to pull that moon into our awareness. Being in this state of stillness and listening while holding our connection with the moon. Just holding these two things at the same time. We are here, we are connected, and we are ready. Woo. So this moon, I want us to talk about magic. Here at the autumn equinox, we are entering into what I believe to be one of the most magical times of the year. And there are two magical times of the year. There is the time between the autumn equinox into Samhain, which is when we are kind of in the twilight of the year, in my mythology anyway. The official sundown of the year would be at equinox, and then we get this glorious long dusk that takes us all the way to Samhain. And if you've ever read any fairy tale or any Celtic myth, you'll know that dusk is one of the most powerful times for magic. It's an in-between time. We're in between two states of being. We're not in day and we're not in night yet. And that brings with it a certain kind of magic, an ability to transform things out of the ordinary. So this time between the autumn equinox and Samhain is the twilight of the year. It is the dusk. It is the closing of the day. And the other really powerful time is between spring equinox and Beltane. Yeah, it's a bit not perfect, my system, but I believe it still works. The time between autumn equinox, spring equinox and Beltane is also really juicy and full. And this is just after the sun has risen. It's a bit different. And here at autumn equinox, we really celebrate Avalon. We are called back to the magic of Avalon again and again in this time, and to a thread that is very interesting in Avalon, to the might of magic. Now, every single Avalonian story contains magic. You cannot move for magic in the old Celtic stories because they were all interwoven with the Celtic otherworld, with the realm of fairies and enchantresses, of magicians and sorcerers. And this is because a really true and beautiful thing that comes with communion of the other world is magic, is the ability to change things at will, is the reclaiming of our ability to create fully at all levels, just like the gods and goddesses do. And this magic is a persistent thread in all Avalon stories. If you're working with Avalon, you're going to be called into working with magic at some time. And magic in Avalon comes as the many different magical beings, enchanters and enchantresses that pop up in Avalonian legend. We of course have Merlin, the wise old sorcerer magician who guides King Arthur with all his great beardly wisdom, and also can whip up a mean spell or two when it is needed in a pinch. And in many of the stories, Merlin was the one that all the women and enchantresses learned their skills from. You of course have our enchantress Morgan Le Fay, who is known in pagan world as a patron goddess of witchcraft. She was a sorcerer, she was a potions mistress. She could create magic out of anything, and magic was her big superpower. And we have many other enchantresses, because often the women in the Arthurian stories really held this edge of magic, because in this Celtic otherworld, the otherworld is thought of as a more archetypally feminine place, more misty and shape-shifty and soft and intangible. That's what was associated with the feminine in Celtic culture for this purpose. And the masculine world is the outer world. It's the one we live and breathe in, the one with the wallpaper with the parrots and the fake magnolia trees and all the things we can feel and touch. It is the realm of fire and the realm of air, of thought and action. And the inner realm of the feminine, of Avalon, is of feeling and of deep earth, yeah? So the women of the other world often held that magic which came from the deep feminine. We have our Morgan Le Fay, and of course we have our other ladies of the lake. We have Niniane, or Vivian, who is known as she's a good woman. She's a good lady, a good wise equivalent of Merlin, who would advise the righteous kings of the court of King Arthur and help him out of any pickles he got into, usually when he's doing something to annoy Morgan Le Fay. The lady of the lake would come in and give him the blessings to get out of that mess. And we have Nimue, who is known as a lady of the lake, who is another enchantress who learned from King Arthur. And in fact, we have many enchantresses that Morgan Le Fay used to hang out with, because enchantresses are not lonely beings. They like to hang out in teams. Just like witches and priestesses, we like to hang out in a group. So we have this really rich tradition of magic. And if we think about Avalon as this realm of priestesses, we have these priestesses in literature and in history as being known as magic wielders. We have stories of the druidesses being able to cast spells to sway the way of a fight or a battle. We have druidesses uttering prophecy to help, either spontaneous or on purpose, to help people, and usually political blokes, because those are the Roman blokes that wrote stuff down, the politicians, to help them understand what's going to happen in the future. We have many, many tales of sisterhoods that turn into crows and who weave spells and who are magical enchantresses who can change the world, yeah? And when we're connecting with Avalon, we are connecting with that part of ourselves that knows this magic is something that runs through us as well. Something about modern goddess spirituality is that we are still shedding the influence of thousands of years of Christianity. And Christianity says that, or old-timey Christianity, says that magic is evil and it is of the devil. In the old Arthurian stories, they thought of so many little workarounds and little backstories to prove as to why magic is evil and it is the work of the devil, but if Merlin does it, it's okay. Just because magic is so cool and you want it in every story, and magic is the legacy of these ancient stories of Avalon, they had to come up with a reason as to why Merlin was allowed to use it, yeah. And goodness me, I lost my train. Magic, Avalon, yumminess. Who cares? Next topic. So we have this thread of Avalon. Haha, I remember. And even now, this is a demi take, you can ignore this if you like. there is some in some goddess spirituality circles, working with magic isn't really seen as the priestessy thing to do. If we were real priestesses, we would leave it all up to the goddess to tell us what to do, the goddess to make everything happen. And we wouldn't be using any magic to influence the world in any way. Because magic is you using your will and your power to influence your reality. And this is something we all hold within us. We all have sorcery powers, because if you haven't been living under a rock for the last 20 years, you will not have been able to escape the law of attraction and the manifesting magic that is so mainstream right now. We do create our reality. The ways we think, the things we believe, and what our expectations really do shape our world. And magic just reminds us that we have this power. Unfortunately, as a remnant of the old-timey Christian power over, nasty, oppress the people and make sure only us rich boys can keep the power kind of vibes, any form of personal power was either seen as abusive, therefore we don't want it, or was seen as bad and must be taken away because only certain people are allowed the power. Magic states that everyone has power. It's all about whether we're able to tap into it or not. And we get these other toxic views of who is allowed to use power, who can use magic, because magic is power. Magic is just power. Magic is power and will and intent. Fierce intent, yeah? Who has the right to shape their reality? Who dares to influence other people? Because if you're a good person, you don't want to influence other people. You just want to be meek and still and not cause any harm to anyone in any way. And the best way not to cause harm to anyone is not to have any influence on anyone, right? Because then you can't be held accountable for anybody's harm. So this is a current and a thread of modern goddess spirituality, this crossing over between the devotional New Age edge, which is very influenced by Christianity. Can't not be, we live in a very Christian culture, and the deeper, more esoteric, magical tradition roots of Avalon and modern priestessship. So often we find ourselves on one of two sides of this magical step of devotion. We have people who are priestesses or who follow the priestess path, and these people are in devotion to the goddess. They love goddess, and people on the priestess path and the goddess spirituality way, we freaking love the goddess. Yeah, we think she's great, and we're really focused on connecting with the divine spirit in all things. Then on the other side, we have witches, witchy witches. And witches have always been a part of goddess spirituality. You can't block them out because they are also the ones who hold the goddess in reverence most of the time. But with witches, there is a certain fearlessness of choosing to take your power, to work with the natural laws, to be connected with nature, and to work your will in the world. There is often I don't want to say rivalry, there's a difference. Some witchy people most witchy people would really understand that everyone is their own priestess, but many priestessy people have an aversion to the title of witch. And I'm not in that agenda, I've always been a witch. I love being a witch, witchy witch. But witch holds a lot more darker undertones, the title. And witch, you cannot ignore a relationship with power, influence and will when you are talking about witch, yeah? So for us on our Avalonian path, I really believe witches and priestesses are sisters. They're doing very similar work, just coming at it from different angles. Some priestesses do their work for themselves and some priestesses do their work for others. Some witches do their work only for themselves. Some witches do their work for others, helping guide people down the witchcraft path, yeah? But witches and priestesses are sisters, and they always have been. And the witch knows that you are allowed to take up space, that you are allowed to have power, that your desires are holy. They're given to you by the goddess. The witch knows that your choice is your most powerful asset. You can transform your world with your choices. And that choice, that personal will, all those very fire-based things, fire, are incredibly important resources on the spiritual path. Many priestesses know these things too, but witchcraft really brings it home. Witchcraft and magic is about daring, to dare, to will, to be silent, to really hold your vision and dare to call it in. Yeah. So within this Avalon magic and this particular time, as we go into Samhain and the time of the witch, as we go into this liminal time where I'm in England, so the whole world is beginning to slow down and shed its leaves and go into this beautiful autumnal fall kaleidoscope of gorgeousness and yummy smells and apples and all those wonderful things. It is our time to remember and reclaim the magic of Avalon. That we can't just place all of our communion and desire and longing for connection with the goddess outside of us. We can't project that all at something that isn't in us. We are here to remember on the Avalon path that we also hold the goddess within us. And she gives us the gift of magic. She gives us the gift of being able to change and transform our world. And magic is this fiery force, this energy of joy and will and thrill that helps us awaken to the magic and the wonder of the world. Yeah. At this time of the year in Morgan Le Fay Mystery School, we are working with the archetype of the Queen of Morgan Le Fay, our bad girl goddess, as Queen of Avalon. She who isn't afraid of her power and is not afraid to direct it in places she wants it. And she mirrors our spring equinox Morgan Le Fay archetype, the enchantress. She who desires, she who wills, she who plays, she who is innocent and yet filled with desire. So, as we're entering this season of magic, I want you to really sit with me here. We're going to think about how we connect with magic in our lives. Do we allow ourselves to take up space? Is our desire important? Are we excited about the fact that we've been given this chance to be here and to influence the world? Or do we shrink from it? Do we feel guilty to take up space? Do we feel like perhaps we are not wise enough or clever enough to influence the world around us? Do we perhaps feel that it's above our station to influence and change the world around us? As emissaries of the goddess, which every single one of us are, we have been placed in this magical playground to play, to participate, to be a part of this life. This world is a tapestry woven together of the wills and desires and influences of a million different people. And everyone playing the game makes the tapestry richer and more engaging and a little bit weirder, but also more delicious. Yeah. And the autumn equinox asks us, awesome, so you're here. You are here to receive the riches of the earth, the treasures of the harvest. Are you going to actually take it in? Are you going to be here? Are you going to play the game? Because, I want you to play the game so much. So, my loves, we're going to do a little activation together. I invite you to close your eyes. We're going to breathe in. And we're just going to sit for one moment, allowing all this talk of magic and will and power to flood our system, to just settle and noticing the places where maybe it feels a little bit edgy or a little bit scary. knowing that our relationship with magic is often also our relationship with power. So if we feel fear or repulsion to power, to wielding it, to owning it, to being controlled by it, we're probably going to have a bit of a sticky time with our magic. And just noticing those places and letting them be. We're going to call in the magical ones of Avalon, Morgan Le Fay, Merlin, Nimue, Vivienne, calling in the enchantresses and the sorcerers to be with us, to hold us in this activation. And in this activation, we are going to unlock and release our fear of our own magic. We're going to awaken to the thrill of being the person who is the source of your life, the creator of your dream. So we call in Vivienne, Lady of the Lake, great goddess of the earth of Avalon, to ground us now in the earth as she transforms and changes once again, knowing that transformation and change is the nature of our reality. We call in the wisdom of Merlin, the one who sees the future and sees the past, to guide us to make right decisions. We call in the magic of Morgan Le Fay, pure fire and water, earth and desire, will and energy. And we ask her to come in and awaken us. And we call in Nimue, the beautiful dream, the blessings and the swan-winged wishes of the goddess as they come to us. Witches, enchantress, sorceresses, all be with us now at this autumn equinox. We ask you to go deep, deep within our bodies, in perfect love and perfect trust, for the good of all and with harm to none, to find the place within us where we lock away our power, where we are afraid to fully be here, where we are afraid to fully incarnate on this earth and have an effect on the world. We ask you, Morgan Le Fay, to hold these parts of us with compassion and love, sending deep love to the places which are afraid of power, which are afraid that using our power means abuse, that using our power means control. We ask Merlin and Morgan Le Fay to come in our body now with blue-violet light, like lightning coming through, clearing all places where we have linked true magical power with abuse and coercion, clearing it now across every single reality and timeline, now, now, now. We ask Morgan Le Fay and Merlin to come in with their blue-violet light, to clear any place within us that we are afraid of our own desire, that we are afraid we are too much, too greedy, that we should ask less from the world. Anywhere that this shame of existence is clouding our goddess-given desires and truth, we call on Merlin and Morgana to come in with their blue-violet light and cleanse, clear, delete, and release that now across all timelines, realities, and dimensions. And we call in Morgan Le Fay and Merlin to set a field of safety. We call in Nimue and Vivienne to create this nourishing, healing field of love around us to be instilled at this equinox, so that our relationship with our magic and our power may be slowly healed, loved, gently held and nourished through the long, dark winter ahead. We ask that this field be in place from now until the spring equinox. And we feel the enchantresses weaving their healing herbs into this field of meadowsweet and linden blossom, of lavender, of rosemary, of hawthorn and elder, creating this cauldron of healing herbs to nourish, soothe, heal, and rehabilitate our magical soul. We are ready to release all fear of our own magic now. We are ready to release all fear of our own power now. We are ready to release. We are ready to be willing to release all fear of being fully here now, of having our existence dancing with and influencing everybody else's here on this earth. And we're going to see that little spark of magic deep within us. We're just going to imagine one of the enchanters or enchantresses just blowing on that flame, fanning it with a dragon's breath, helping that tiny ember grow brighter and brighter and brighter. And as that flame is nourished, feel how it makes you settle in your body, how you feel centered, present, fully here, confident, relaxed, joyful. These are the true feelings of being in our power. We are at ease. And we feel the goddesses, the enchantress, the enchantresses fanning this small ember into a flame. We welcome back our magic. We awaken our power, and we pray now that we are taught how to wield our power with grace. We call in the daring of the witches to dare to dream, to dare to believe. We call in Morgan Le Fay to empower our fearlessness, our boldness, our fierceness. We call in the wisdom of Merlin to help us wield our power and magic with great, wise truth. We call on Nimue to keep us in communion with our landscape, with the goddess and the spirits and beings, so that our power can benefit all. And, if we desire, mostly ourselves, because that also is permitted, my loves. And we're just going to breathe that spark of magic into our body. And feel it entering our bloodstream, like sparkles and embers of flame, bringing us alive. We have permission to be magical. We have permission to influence our world. We have permission to play the game, to be a weaver of the dream, to take our part in the great tapestry of life and make our own little riotous corner full of colour and brightness, love and desire. We give ourselves permission to be and influence on the world. Magic is our birthright as sons and daughters and children of Avalon, and we remember our way. Merlin, Morgana, Nimue, Vivian, seal this oath into our body now. We remember. And in this moment, your blood thick with the embers of magic, open your heart to receive. What would you like to use this magic for? And on our next out breath, we're just going to blow that desire into our energy field. There is no wrong answer and no right answer here. Seeing that magic, those sparks of flame entering our energy field and recoding it, repatterning it in resonance with this desire. Feeling the thrill of playing the game of magic in the world. How fun! How joyful! Thank you, thank you, thank you, guardians and goddesses of Avalon. Thank you, Merlin, Morgana, Nimue, Vivian. Be at work in our body from now until the spring equinox to anchor in this permission and receiving of our magic, to anchor in safety, in our power, in our influence. We see ourselves held by that herb nest, always healing us, always rehabilitating us, doing the work for us even when we can't. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Avalon, blessed be. And so it is done. So, priestesses, witches, devotees, thank you for joining me for this full moon church, working with the magic of this season of magic and witches and everything being so juicy and full of deliciousness in the world. Thank you for working with me on this full moon to reawaken the spirit and the spark of Avalon in the world. You cannot have Avalon without magic. And you cannot, in my opinion, be a priestess of Avalon unless you are working some kind of magical practice in your life. And this could be hardcore witchcraft, or this could be gentle manifesting. They all count. They're all witchcraft. Let's not play games here. And if you loved this class, this full moon, I encourage you to come and join me at Rockstar Priestess. You can join my free Morgan Le Fay Priestess Activation, which gives you a deepening into the magic of Avalon. And I run year-long priestess trainings in the arts of embodying Avalon and being Morgan Le Fay, and in the arts of priestess service. So you can come hang out with me there if you want. I'm sending you so much love on this full moon. Go forth and be magical as hell, my sweeties. Bye.